Chair, now recognizes myself for the purpose of asking questions. Governor Reynolds, again, thank you for being here. You're a role model for government efficiency. That's why we asked you to come in, and you've done a tremendous job explaining what you did in Iowa as we work, at least on this side of the aisle, to sincerely try to reform government and reduce unnecessary spending in Washington. I understand you were asked a question that mischaracterized a bill you signed a couple of years ago that addressed the Iowa State Auditor. Can you talk about why the legislature passed the bill?
Yeah, the bill was passed, again, to promote government efficiency, so it completely fell in line with the government efficiency and alignment bill that we were working on. And what it did is it required that two government agencies to mediate conflicts rather than going to the court and racking up legal bills that the taxpayers have to pay for. So it did not limit the auditor's access to necessary information. It was more about the process of when two agencies disagreed, that they could actually mediate their conflicts instead of taking it through the courts, racking up additional cost on taxpayers.
Right. Like you worked with your legislature to amend laws that needed change to complete your alignment. President Trump has said he will work with Congress where he needs to, but he will take executive action where he can. You did that too, correct?
I did the same thing. When we started, I did it through 2080 agreements. I had one director acting for both public health and human services. We did it through a 28E or an MOU. We did a proof of concept, and then we took it through the legislature. I also did executive orders with the rules moratorium. We put that, I initiated that with an executive order, and then when we took the next step, we actually took it through Congress when it needed a statute change to implement some of the ideas that we did, either through an executive order that I stood up or through a 28E. Then we brought in the Congress and utilized them to make the statute reflect what we were doing.
Great. You eliminated a host of state agencies, commissions. It saved money and streamlined the state bureaucracy. I wonder, did you encounter opposition from entrenched interest when you did that?
You know, we really didn't, but I will say we did a lot of the homework on the front end. And these were common sense changes, as I talked about. You can't have different functions spread across multiple agencies and expect to be efficient. So we brought in the directors early, we brought in the leaders, we brought in the chairs, we reached out to stakeholders, but no. And the few incidents where there were some concerns that were raised, it never came to bear.
So it sounds like people in Iowa were serious about reforming government. I don't get that feeling in Washington, D.C., at least with half of the Congress. What sort of blowback did these proposals get when they were first announced?
Well, again, I mean, we hadn't looked at the government structure for 40 years, so I don't think they were surprised. I had done a complete tax overhaul. Again, I started with the merger between public health and with human services, and so I had a great proof of concept. So as we worked with the directors, we were also able to anticipate what some of the arguments might be, what some of the opposition would be, so we could do the research on the front end to be able to provide the answers to the individuals about why we were doing what we did, and it was very, very effective. But it's hard to argue that it doesn't make sense to not have licensing spread across 11 agencies, or to put 100 troopers back on the road by putting your motor vehicle enforcement unit in with the Department of Public Safety. That's 100 troopers that we were able to put on the road.
Well, did some say that your proposals would disrupt government services and lead to other problems?
A lot of it was the existing, maybe some of the agencies that we were moving off the cabinet. It was the agencies, not the individuals, not Iowans that had the most pushback.
See, I think that's who's leading a lot of the fear and criticism of Elon Musk. I think it's some of the federal agencies and federal employees who are about to be disrupted.
Yeah, that saw their kind of their territory being uprooted.
So were their fears proven to be overblown? Was there damage, if any?
There was not damage, and we haven't had really any pushback whatsoever. And I keep saying this, but even the employees and the agencies, they love the culture that we're creating. There's actually more upward mobility within the agencies because we've broadened their scope on what they can impact. And they love that. They like being a part of that.
Were people in Iowa ever allowed to work from home for years after COVID?
No, not for years.
See, that's part of the problem. I think that's what set the ball rolling of fear and opposition among a lot of the federal employees. There's so many in this town that are still working from home because of COVID years later. So they've been brought back to work, and now we're talking about bringing agencies in and letting them justify their existence, and cutting agencies and cutting wasteful spending and eliminating duplicative services and eliminating duplicative agencies. And it's just created all this fear and mass hysteria with my colleagues across the aisle. But we're committed to work with this administration to reduce and eliminate unnecessary spending and wasteful spending, and hopefully we'll be able to do that like you did in Iowa. But thank you, Governor.
Thank you, I appreciate that.